Hi, I'm Rob Balla with Balla Media. Thanks for joining us today here at Google. Our second video is how to advertise, calculating your advertising budget. This is based on a physical retail location, not to be confused with online purchases, Google Shopping, cost per click. This is calculating your overall advertising budget based on your gross sales from a physical location. Okay, so from video number one, we saw the available marketing channels that you could take advantage of. So when we're referring to advertising budget, we're referring to all of these available channels, and I'm sure there may be some that we are missing. When we're referring to digital, also referring to social media. With Google, you can see all the specific products there. There's other factors as well, some things that can cost money and other things that are free, like word of mouth. And of course, the terrestrial media column is there as well. We're going to take an example of John. He owns a furniture store. He's trying to determine how much money he has to spend on his advertising. His average markup is 100%. His annual gross sales are $1 million, and he wants an aggressive marketing plan so that he can grow his business and become the #1 furniture store in the marketplace. There are different things that we're going to look at in terms of calculating the budget. We're going to start off with his annual sales of being $1 million. His percentage of budget, we're going to take a low markup, medium markup, and a high markup. So in the past, it's been the norm to have a 5 to 6% budget allocated for advertising from your gross sales. That number is from the 60s. Where financial analysts and analysts have basically said that you got to go with the 5 or 6%. Well, a lot has changed since the 60s in terms of available marketing channels that are out there, available media. I mean, that has increased by 100%. So the 5 to 6% no longer works in terms of growth. You have to look at a minimum of anywhere between 9 and 10% and up to 11 and 12% as a high budget level. So let's take, for example, a percentage of budget of 11%. Your total cost of exposure is what you're doing is you're taking that 11%, you're multiplying it by the million is 110,000. Let's say your average markup is 100%. So that means if you're purchasing a product for $50 and you're selling it for $100, your markup is 100%. And that's not to be confused with your margin. So calculating margin is quite different. Margin is your profit divided by your selling price times 100. So if you are purchasing a product for $50 and selling it for $100, your gross margin is 50. So the other factor we take into consideration is your lease or your rent of your physical location. And this is a very important component to including your advertising. And the reason being is that your physical location is actually worth quite a bit in terms of where you are. And if you're paying a higher amount for your monthly lease or your monthly rent, then it's worth it because that is drawing in a lot more customers as opposed to being in a location that nobody can find. So we're going to incorporate that into the mix as well. So if we look at your cost of rent or lease being $30,000, your final advertising budget would be $80,000 because we're going to take away the $30,000 from the $110, and you're left with $80,000. Now, if we go to the last two columns, it'll show the high budget and a low market, and a high budget and a high market. If we look at the bottom line there, because you've increased your markup by so much. So in that fourth column, your markup is 90%. So it's a very low markup. You have less available dollars to use for your advertising. And you look at the final column, it's 150%. You're at about $150,000, and it exponentially grows your available marketing dollars. So once again, we're taking the same percentage of budget in those last two columns of 12%. You're coming out with the same total cost of exposure of $120,000. However, the difference is that your adjusted total budget is $108,000 with a low markup, $180,000 for a high markup, and your total cost of rent is $30,000. That remains the same, but the difference, the bottom line difference, is huge. If you have any questions about calculating your advertising budget, please contact me, Rob Balla at Balla Media. Thanks for joining us today here at Google. We can be reached at amazingservice@balamedia.ca or call us at 905-572-7474.